Mark Jenkins froze in the doorway, his hand still gripping the polished brass handle. There, hunched over the massive mahogany desk that had always seemed as impenetrable as its owner, was Catherine Winters, the formidable CEO of Winters Enterprises, sobbing uncontrollably into her hands. The quarterly reports he'd been asked to deliver suddenly felt insignificant in his trembling fingers. In 15 years of corporate climbing, he'd never seen his boss display anything beyond cool efficiency. Yet here she was, completely shattered, unaware of his presence as three identical small voices echoed from her computer speakers, "Happy birthday, Mommy. We miss you. When are you coming home?" If you're moved by stories of unexpected connections and second chances, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt content that reminds us how life's most painful moments can lead to our greatest blessings. Mark had never planned on being a single father to triplet girls. Just as Catherine had never imagined her relentless pursuit of success would cost her the family she'd once had. Their collision in that office would unravel secrets neither was prepared to face, and forge an unlikely bond that would heal wounds they'd both carried in silence for far too long. The morning had started like any other for Mark. The chaotic symphony of getting 3 7-year-old girls fed, dressed, and off to school was his daily ritual since Diane had walked out 4 years ago, claiming she never signed up to be a mother of multiples. The girls, Emma, Lily, and Sophie, had been just 3 then, too young to fully understand their mother's abandonment but old enough to feel the void she left behind. "Daddy, Sophie took my hairbrush again," Emma complained, her dark curls still tangled from sleep. "Did not. I have my own," Sophie protested, waving a purple brush that was indeed identical to her sister's. "Girls, we don't have time for this," Mark said, pouring cereal with one hand while checking his phone with the other. A message from his boss's assistant glowed on the screen: "Ms. Winters needs the Q3 projections by 9 a.m. sharp." Mark felt his stomach tighten. Catherine Winters had a reputation for being brilliant but merciless. At 45, she'd built Winters Enterprises from a small marketing firm into a global communications giant. Employees who failed to meet her exacting standards rarely lasted long. "Lily, sweetheart, please eat something," Mark urged his quietest daughter, who was pushing Cheerios around her bowl. Of the 3, Lily had taken Diane's departure the hardest. She'd become withdrawn, speaking less and less as the years passed. "Not hungry," she mumbled, but dutifully took a small bite when Mark gave her the look she knew meant he wouldn't budge. After dropping the girls at school with kisses and promises of pizza for dinner, Mark rushed to the office tower that housed Winters Enterprises. The elevator ride to the 38th floor gave him just enough time to straighten his tie and review the projections one last time. Catherine Winters demanded perfection, and he was determined to deliver it. The executive floor was eerily quiet when he arrived. Catherine's assistant, normally stationed at her desk like a sentinel, was nowhere to be seen. A handwritten note on her computer read, "Out sick. Leave reports for Ms. Winters on my desk." Mark hesitated. Catherine's closed-door policy was legendary. Nobody entered her office uninvited. But the projections contained sensitive information that shouldn't be left unattended, and she had specifically requested them for a 9 a.m. meeting with investors. After a moment's deliberation, he approached her door and knocked softly. No response. He knocked again, slightly louder. Still nothing. Checking his watch, 8:55 a.m., he made a decision that would change everything. He turned the handle and pushed the door open. The sound that greeted him was so unexpected that for a moment he thought he'd entered the wrong office. Catherine Winters, the woman whose icy composure had earned her the nickname Winter Queen among staff, was crying. Not the dignified single tear of momentary weakness, but deep, body-shaking sobs that seemed wrenched from somewhere primal and raw. Mark stood frozen, witnessing something he knew he wasn't meant to see. He was about to retreat when he heard them, 3 small voices, so similar they could have been one voice echoed, coming from her laptop. "Happy birthday, Mommy. We miss you. When are you coming home?" The video playing on Catherine's screen showed 3 little boys, perhaps 4 years old, with identical sandy blonde hair and Catherine's striking green eyes. They wore party hats and stood before a cake with unlit candles. "Tyler made this drawing for you," said one boy, holding up a crayon picture of what appeared to be a family. "And I learned a new song on the piano," said another. "And I just miss you," said the third, his bottom lip quivering slightly. An older male voice, off camera, gently prompted, "What else do you want to tell Mommy?" The boys spoke in unison, "We love you. Please come home soon." The video ended, freezing on their hopeful faces. Catherine's shoulders shook as she rewound it to watch again. Mark knew he should leave, but something kept him rooted to the spot. Perhaps it was recognition, the raw pain of a parent separated from their children. Before he could retreat, Catherine sensed his presence and whirled around, her tear-streaked face transforming instantly into a mask of fury. "Jenkins! What the hell do you think you're doing?" she demanded, slamming her laptop closed. I'm sorry, Ms. Winters. Your assistant is out, and you needed these reports for your 9 a.m. meeting." He held up the folder like a shield. Catherine wiped her face with trembling hands. "Put them down and get out. This never happened. Understood?" Mark placed the folder on her desk and turned to leave, but then stopped. Later, he would wonder what madness possessed him in that moment. "My wife left me with triplets too," he said quietly. "Girls, not boys. They're 7 now." Catherine's expression shifted from anger to shock. "What did you say?" "I have triplets. I know it's challenging. Even with 2 parents. Alone, it sometimes feels impossible." For a long moment, Catherine stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. Mark had worked at Winters Enterprises for 3 years, but he realized she probably knew nothing about him beyond his job performance. "Your meeting is in 5 minutes, he said gently. "The Tokyo investors. They're waiting in the conference room." Catherine straightened, visibly pulling herself together. "Thank you, Jenkins. For the reports." Mark nodded and left, certain he'd be fired by day's end for witnessing her moment of vulnerability. But the termination notice never came. Instead, 3 days later, Catherine called him into her office. Mark entered warily, expecting the worst. "Close the door, Jenkins," she said, her voice back to its usual crisp efficiency. No trace remained of the broken woman he'd seen days earlier. "I've been reviewing your file," she said, gesturing to a folder on her desk. "You've been with us 3 years. Your performance is consistently above average, though your attendance has occasional issues." "My daughters," Mark explained. "When they're sick or have school events." "Yes, I'm aware." Catherine's expression remained unreadable. "You mentioned their triplets." "Yes. Emma, Lily, and Sophie." "And their mother?" Mark hesitated. "She left when they were 3. Said she couldn't handle it." Something flickered in Catherine's eyes, recognition, perhaps. "And you've been raising them alone since then?" "Yes. We manage." Catherine was silent for a moment, studying him. Then she asked, "How?" "How what?" "How do you manage?" "Work, 3 children, everything, how do you do it?" Mark realized this wasn't about his job performance at all. "Not very gracefully, most days," he admitted. "I have a good neighbor who helps with childcare. The girls are in school until 3. I work through lunch to leave by 5. Weekends are for laundry, grocery shopping, and trying to give them some semblance of a normal childhood." "And dating? Social life?" Mark laughed without humor. "What social life?" "Dating is complicated. Most women aren't exactly thrilled about an instant family of 4. Catherine nodded slowly. "The boys in the video," she said after a pause, "they're my sons. Triplets. They turned 5 last week. They're beautiful, Mark said sincerely. They have your eyes. Yes. Catherine's gaze drifted to a photo on her desk that Mark had never noticed before, the same 3 boys, younger, perhaps 2 years old, sitting on a beach. I haven't seen them in person for 8 months. Mark waited, sensing there was more she needed to say. Their father has primary custody. My choice, initially. When the opportunity came to expand the company internationally, I couldn't pass it up. Richard, my ex-husband, was better with them anyway. More patient. We agreed he would keep them in Connecticut, in the house they knew, with their schools and friends, while I built the business. That sounds reasonable, Mark offered. Catherine's laugh was bitter. Reasonable. Yes. Except months turned into years. Video calls replaced bedtime stories. Birthday parties were watched on screens instead of experienced. And somewhere along the way, Richard met someone new. Someone who's there every day, doing all the things I should be doing. I'm sorry, Mark said, understanding all too well the pain of being replaced. Don't be. It's my own doing. Catherine straightened in her chair. I didn't call you in here for sympathy, Jenkins. I called you because I need advice. Mark blinked in surprise. Advice? From me? You've managed to maintain your career while being present for your daughters. I want to know how I can do the same with my sons. The request was so unexpected that Mark took a moment to gather his thoughts. It's not easy, he finally said. There are sacrifices. I've turned down promotions that would require more travel. I work remotely when I can. The girls come first, always. And your career suffers for it? Sometimes. But they're only children once. The company will always need marketing analysts. My girls only get one childhood, and they only have one parent who shows up. Catherine flinched slightly at his words. Richard wants to move to California with his fiancée. Take the boys across the country. I could fight it legally, but... She trailed off. But you don't want to put them through that, Mark finished for her. No. And I don't have a leg to stand on. What judge would give custody to a mother who chose her career over her children for years? Mark considered his next words carefully. What do you want, Ms. Winters? Catherine, she corrected automatically. I want to be their mother again. Not just a face on a screen or a voice on the phone. I want to know their favorite foods and help with homework and kiss scraped knees. I want them to know me. Then that's what you have to do, Mark said simply. It's not that simple. The company will survive without you being physically present every minute. Technology exists for a reason. Delegate. Restructure. Do whatever it takes. Catherine looked at him with new respect. You're very direct for someone speaking to their boss. Mark shrugged. You asked for my advice. As a parent, not as your employee. After a thoughtful pause, Catherine said, I have a proposition for you, Jenkins. Mark. I need to restructure my leadership approach if I'm going to be more present for my sons. I need someone who understands both the business and the challenges of parenting alone. I'd like to promote you to Director of Operations, with flexible hours and the option to work remotely 2 days a week. The same would apply to me. Mark stared at her, stunned. That's generous. But why me? Because you've proven you can balance both worlds, even if imperfectly. And because you saw me at my worst and didn't use it against me. That's rare in this business. I'll need to think about it, Mark said cautiously. A promotion means more responsibility. Of course. Take the weekend. We can discuss details on Monday. Catherine stood, signaling the end of their meeting. And Mark? Thank you. For your honesty. That evening, As Mark helped the girls with homework at their small kitchen table, he considered Catherine's offer. The promotion would mean a substantial raise, enough to move to a better apartment, maybe even start a college fund for the girls. But it would also mean more responsibility, potentially longer hours. "Daddy, is pizza still coming?" Sophie asked, interrupting his thoughts. "Yes, pumpkin. Should be here any minute." "You promised we could watch a movie too," Emma reminded him. "I did, didn't I? What should we watch?" "Frozen," the twins chorused, while Lily remained focused on her math worksheet. "Again? Don't you girls ever get tired of that movie?" "Nope." Sophie grinned, revealing a missing front tooth. The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of dinner. As they ate pizza on the living room floor, a Friday night tradition, Mark watched his daughters with a full heart. Emma, the leader, always organizing her sisters into games and adventures. Sophie, the comedian, who could make everyone laugh even on the hardest days. And Lily, quiet and thoughtful, who saw everything and said little. "Daddy," Lily said suddenly, her voice soft but clear, "is something wrong at work?" Mark was startled by her perception. "No, sweetheart. Why do you ask? You keep thinking hard. Your forehead gets all wrinkly when you're worried about work." Mark smoothed his brow self-consciously. "Actually, I might be getting a promotion. A better job. Will you have to work more?" Lily asked, cutting straight to her concern. "No, actually. I might even be able to work from home sometimes." "Really?" Emma perked up. "Like, you'd be here when we get home from school?" "Some days, yes." "That would be awesome," Sophie exclaimed. "You could come to my class play next month." "I was planning to come anyway, sophomore." "Yeah, but you wouldn't have to rush or look at your watch the whole time." Mark felt a pang of guilt, realizing how much his daughters noticed his constant time management struggles. Later, after the girls were asleep, Mark sat at his small desk paying bills and thinking about Catherine's sons. How must it feel to see your mother only through a screen? At least his girls had never had to experience that particular pain. Diane had made a clean break, no calls, no visits, not even birthday cards. In some ways, perhaps that was easier than having a parent who was perpetually just out of reach. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Catherine Winters. Hope it's not too late to text. Had a thought about the position we discussed. Could include school pickup flexibility. Let me know if you want to talk before Monday." Mark saved the number and replied, "Not too late. Appreciate the thought. Girls would love having me home after school. We'll call tomorrow if that works." Catherine's response came quickly, "Tomorrow is good. Having a video call with the boys at 10 a.m. Free after that." Mark hesitated, then typed, "Enjoy your call with your sons. They're lucky to have a mom who's trying to find a better way." There was a long pause before her reply appeared, "Thank you for that. Not sure they feel lucky right now. Working on it though." The following Monday, Mark accepted Catherine's offer. By Wednesday, the announcement went out to the company. Catherine Winters would be restructuring leadership to allow for more remote work, with Mark Jenkins stepping into the newly created Director of Operations role. The corporate rumor mill immediately went into overdrive, with speculation ranging from Catherine having a terminal illness to Mark having compromising information on her. Neither of them addressed the rumors. Instead, they focused on creating a transition plan that would allow both of them more flexibility without compromising the company's success. 2 weeks later, Catherine invited Mark to lunch, not at the exclusive executive dining room, but at a casual cafe near the office. "I spoke with Richard last night," she said after they'd ordered. "I'm flying to Connecticut this weekend to see the boys." "That's great," Mark said sincerely. "How do you feel?" "Terrified," Catherine admitted. "What if they don't want me there? What if they prefer their future stepmother?" What if I've waited too long? They sent you a birthday video saying they miss you and want you to come home, Mark reminded her. Children are remarkably forgiving, especially when they're young. I hope you're right. Catherine fidgeted with her water glass. Richard agreed to let me take them for the whole day on Saturday. I have no idea what to do with 3 5-year-old boys for 8 hours. Mark laughed. Just be with them. Ask them what they want to do. Listen. The rest will follow. Easy for you to say. You've had years of practice. Trust me, I had no idea what I was doing at. As Marcus took his place beside Victoria on the stage, he couldn't help but reflect on how dramatically his life had changed in just 1 year. From being fired and fearing for his family's future to standing here as the new COO of Harrington Enterprises. I'm honored and humbled by this opportunity, Marcus said into the microphone, his voice steady despite the emotion welling in his chest. A year ago, I thought my time with this company had ended. Today, I'm reminded that sometimes what feels like an ending is actually a new beginning. He glanced at Lily in the audience, her eyes shining with pride. I want to thank my daughter, who never stopped believing in me, even when I doubted myself. Then he turned to Victoria, who nodded encouragingly. And I want to thank Victoria Harrington, who taught me that people can change, that second chances matter, and that the strongest partnerships often come from the most unexpected places. Victoria stepped forward to join him at the microphone. When I fired Marcus Chen, I made the biggest mistake of my career, she admitted to the stunned audience. But thanks to my father's wisdom, that mistake became the most valuable lesson I've ever learned. She looked at Marcus with genuine respect. In business, as in life, it's not about cutting costs or maximizing short-term profits. It's about recognizing the value of people, building relationships based on trust, and having the courage to admit when you're wrong. William Harrington watched from the side of the stage, a satisfied smile on his face. His company would be in good hands. Later that evening, as the gala wound down, Marcus found himself standing on the terrace with William. Did you plan this all along? Marcus asked. From that first lunch at your mansion? William chuckled. Let's just say I recognized an opportunity when I saw one. Victoria needed someone to balance her approach, and you needed a chance to show your true value. Thank you, Marcus said simply. Not just for my position, but for what you've done for Lily. The college fund you established for her. William waved his hand dismissively. Consider it an investment in the future. That girl of yours is going to change the world someday. Inside, Victoria was kneeling beside Lily's chair, the two of them deep in conversation about Lily's latest science project. The sight warmed Marcus's heart. You know, William said, following Marcus's gaze, sometimes the family we build is just as important as the one we're born into. As the night ended, Marcus drove home with Lily sleeping in the passenger seat. His phone buzzed with a text from Victoria, ready to change the world together, partner? Marcus smiled. From fired employee to company leader in 1 year. Life could change in an instant, sometimes all it took was a fired single dad having lunch with a billionaire to set everything right. The story of Marcus Chen and Victoria Harrington would become legend within the company, a reminder that true leadership isn't about power or position, but about recognizing value in others and having the courage to make things right. And somewhere in the city, in a modest apartment with science books on the coffee table and a bright future ahead, a single father had found not just a job, but a purpose. Not just a second chance, but a new beginning. Sometimes, the end of one chapter is just the beginning of a better story. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring stories of second chances and unexpected turns of fate. Remember, sometimes what seems like your worst day might just be setting you up for your greatest triumph.